Friday evenings, we enjoy having chai in Jamat Khana. We are launching Friday Online Chai Night, a program of entertainment to bring the Jamaat together. In the last week, we have established a single point of contact for the Jamaat across the country. It's a new hub called Access. Jamaati members can reach Access for support they need, toll-free or by phone or by email.
Introducing The Ismaili TV, bringing you streaming video content 24 hours a day.
One, do you have your chai with you or your hot beverage of any form? Two, do you have your snack? I've got my naan katai from my aunt in Edmonton. I switched to bone broth and a mandarin.
I went and got myself a pink bubble tea. Now there are tapioca pearls in here, but they are a lot bigger than takmaria.
Homemade mango kulfi, which clearly I've been rationing.
Thank you to my mother for sending us a whole double of naan katai. We appreciate it.
I got a recommendation to have the cream soda sparkling water.
I have a lovely cup of chai here. It is a organic Kashmiri green chai.
I attempted to make sherbet. It's a different color, of course. I don't know how to make it, so I tried, bear with me. But of course, I also have nani siro.
It's amazing to hear the wonderful news that Jamat Khanas will be reopening soon.
This is exciting! Okay. We are going back to Kane. Mask. Sadru! Badru, I knew that. Always keep your mask on. Keep your hands clean, hands sanitized. You gotta practice social distancing. Always maintain 2 meters apart from each other at all times. If you have any questions, ask a volunteer. They have been trained to help the Jamaat. Stay smart, stay safe.
Dear guests, there are days in one's life that mark an individual, that mark an institution, and today is one of those days. What are those days? Those are days which I think open doors to the future, give you a sense of hope, a sense of confidence, a sense of not being alone in trying to achieve the goals that one has set oneself as an individual or as an institution. And that is what you have allowed Premier for me today, and I thank you for that. My community has lived obviously for centuries in a large number of countries, and therefore we have a permanent presence in these countries. That's very different from being an occasional visitor. People live in these countries, and they live in good and less good circumstances. They think, they analyze, they live in hope, but also they live in sadness and in difficulty. And the last few years have not been happy in many of the countries we're working in. So our duty is to try to convert these countries into countries of opportunity. We can't do that alone, but we can do it with Canada, and we can do it with the province of Alberta. So in that sense, today is a day of magnificent opportunity, and I thank you so much. I would add that in the last decades, I've come to an important conclusion about governance, about the fragility of governance in the developing world, and what people can do to protect themselves from governance which is not effective. And I think that history is beginning to show that civil society, in its complexity but also in its ability to impact the way people live, is probably the most important single feature that I know. And building civil society is a complex exercise, needs multiple input, and that multiple input, again, I hope we will develop with your institutions in Alberta. So these relationships that are being discussed today and that will, I hope, be part of this agreement are very, very important indeed for us. So when I said that there are days that mark one's own convictions and hope, now I hope you understand why that is such a day for me today. Thank you, Premier.
Ya Ali Madad, welcome, bienvenue, and a very happy new year. Thank you for joining us for another Friday Night Reflections. My name is Aliya Jiwan-Thawer, and I am honored to welcome all of our Jamati members, multi-faith family members, and everyone joining us from across the globe. I'm coming to you tonight from Toronto, and it is my absolute honor to be hosting the very first Friday Night Reflections of 2021. How great is it that we get to start the new year together and look forward to a year of hope and great things. Now, last night, we as a family really enjoyed the New Year's Eve program, and we hope you were able to tune in as well. My kids really enjoyed the children's programming and the early countdown at 10:30 p.m. We had on our party hats, we had snacks, we had noisemakers, and then we hugged and kissed 2020 goodbye. We kissed our kids and sent them off to bed a little later than usual. And then my husband and I watched the rest of the programming and really enjoyed the comedy skits. Now, if you missed it, you can still check it out at iicanada.org. I hope you enjoyed the video at the start of the show, 2020 in Review. It's really remarkable to see everything that we've been through over the past year and how we've been able to overcome it together. And that's precisely the theme of our show tonight. We have quite the lineup for you. We have appearances from 7 presidents, President Ameerally Kassim-Lakha, as well as each of our local council presidents will be joining us tonight, and it'll be great to hear from them as we start the new year. Dr. Shiraz Kabani will be joining us from the Institute for Ismaili Studies with his reflections on the past year. And as always, we will end with some wonderful musical expressions. So sit back, relax, and let us hear from Council for Canada President Ameerally Kassim-Lakha, joining us from his home right here in Toronto with a few words on the Future Ready initiative.
My dear brothers and sisters, Yali Madad and Happy New Year to all of you. January 1st is a time to take stock of the past year and to look ahead at the year to come. Tonight, I would like to do just this in the context of our Jamaat and how we can position ourselves for the future. Over the last year, we have seen the intensification of trends we have discussed before, including digitization and automation. These will continue to present challenges and new opportunities for our Jamaat. To understand how rapidly our world is changing, consider the following statistics on the reach of innovation. It took 75 years for the telephone to reach 50 million homes after it was invented, 13 years for the television, and 4 years for the internet. But it took only 19 days for the Pokemon Go app to reach 50 million users. Rapid global macro shifts are the reality of today, and they require agile responses and that we support one another in order to adapt to trends. In Maulana Hazrat Imam's Talika Mubarak on Salgira, he made reference to his conviction shared previously. It is a matter of satisfaction that my Jamaat continues to draw inspiration from our historic tradition of facing adversity with unity, resolve, and resilience. And I am convinced that my Jamaat will emerge from the present crisis with enhanced strength and capacities as we plan for the future. Tonight, I want to speak about our efforts to support planning for the future. The Jamaat may recall that we have spoken previously of the Future Ready initiative. This is a program designed to support and strengthen the Jamaat's resilience, confidence, and capacity in the years ahead. It has been designed to deliver several key outcomes. In fact, there are 7 outcomes. These are that the Jamaat lives in a safe, affordable, and healthy home, has economic opportunity, financial literacy, and sufficient resources, is protected by a social safety net at times of crisis, has access to timely, affordable, and quality physical and mental health, completes post-secondary education, including credentialing, participates in quality early childhood development, and has a social support network and access to dignified, specialized services for aging. To meet these 7 outcomes, the institutions have developed 4 key programs under the Future Ready initiative. We call them our 4 pillars. They are the Family Mentorship Program, Future of Work, Mental Health Initiative, and Fast Track Mentorship. We have discussed the future of work before, but I will take a moment to describe the 4 pillars in detail because they are important. Number 1, the Family Mentorship Program. This will provide professional support to the Jamaat seeking to strengthen areas such as early childhood development, housing, health, and other social supports. The program is currently being tested, and I will speak to the Jamaat again when it is formally launched. Number 2, the Future of Work and Future of Business programs. These will support the Jamaat's transition to career pathways where there are sustainable growth opportunities. There are a variety of prototypes underway with reskilling and upskilling programs for the Jamaat already being piloted. I am excited to share that in one of the early pilot programs with a Canadian university, 20% of the participants came from members of the Jamaat living in Central Asia. The Jamaat has hopefully seen a number of presentations that have been made on the future of work. Number 3, the Mental Health Initiative. I have spoken before about the importance of the Jamaat protecting its mental health. This means creating awareness of mental health and mental illness, building resiliency within every family to deal with the stresses and challenges of life, and being comfortable in accessing professional support through healthcare providers and the Jamaati institutions. Until such time as we launch additional programs, if you or a member of your family is experiencing a mental health concern, please contact the Access line and ask to speak to someone from the Medical Advisory Service team who will support you. The fourth pillar is fast-track mentorship, and I am pleased this evening to announce the formal launch of this initiative. Fast Track is a digital mentorship program. The program's mandate is to support Jamaati members from ages 14 to 40 to set clear academic, career, and personal goals and accelerate their progress with the support of mentors who have distinctive insights. Mentors and mentees who participate in Fast Track will receive individual tailored matching based on common interests and needs. Participants will benefit from a library of professional development resources and a growing network of Ismaili professionals. Let me share with you that in 2019, when Maulana Hazrat Imam was informed of a youth mentorship initiative in Canada, he said to the Jamaati leadership that this was excellent, that he wanted to see youth mentorship scaled in Canada, and that leadership should think about what needs to be scaled. So, it is important that the Jamaat knows that the Fast Track Mentorship Program we are launching today is based on the guidance of our beloved Maulana Hazrat Imam. Let me share a few examples of the types of mentorship that will exist, inshallah, through the program. A professional seeking to transition to entrepreneurship is paired with a successful entrepreneur who can guide and ensure they make the right early decisions. A small business owner is at risk of losing his single location business due to COVID and needs hand-holding to salvage his primary asset and consider new options he can pivot into. A high school student is considering growth career options for the future and needs advice from someone who has made a mark in robotics. A mid-career employee is impacted by the downturn in oil and gas prices and is looking to understand her options. A high school student seeking admission to an Ivy League university in the United States is paired with a mentor who has attended such an institution. These are a few examples. Today, Fast Track is accepting applications for both mentors and mentees. For this program to succeed, we need mentors to come forward. We are looking for Jamaati members with experience in professions, trades, entrepreneurship to come forward to volunteer your time. This includes those with experience in fields such as healthcare, finance, IT, engineering, business, and policy. Mentorship is a form of networking, which, as we all know, is critical to advance our career and business prospects in today's world. There are two expressions. Who you know is as important as what you know. And to move forward, you need a sponsor. Mentorships is about building our networks and sponsors to progress our careers and businesses. You will have the opportunity to meet new members of the Jamaat and, inshallah, touch their lives in very special ways. Please visit the II Canada website for information and to apply. I also want to make a particular appeal to members of our French-speaking Jamaat to participate in this program. considerable effort has been made to ensure that Fast Track is accessible in both English and French. And so, French-speaking members should come forward as both mentors and mentees. Today, we are actively seeking as volunteers and for new staff roles within the Jamat institutions, members of the Jamat who have professional experience in psychiatric nursing, social work, special needs education, and adult education. The II Canada website will have the postings. In conclusion, I want to say to you that in our faith, mentoring is a role of great spiritual significance based on the principle of brotherhood and sisterhood. Guiding others in their personal goal setting, career planning, education, internships, and work experience is a way to transform lives. Please come forward if you are able to render this service. If you have the skills and knowledge to support others and hold their hand. And if as a young member of the Jamaat or displaced professional, you need guidance or direction from others, come forward. Seeking assistance from others is a sign of strength, not a sign of weakness. Sometimes just one piece of genuine advice offered at the right moment can positively transform a life. The Future Ready initiative is not an institutional effort. It is a Jamati effort. So don't hold back in assisting or seeking assistance. At this time, it is particularly important that young members of our Jamaat should have access to the Jamati talent and experience that exists in so many fields. We look forward to 2021, which inshallah will be a year of great happiness as Jamaat Khanas reopen, vaccines become available, and we reconnect in person. Happy New Year to all of you with prayers for success and barakat. Thank you and Khuda Hafiz.
Thank you, President Saib, for your words and thoughts on how we can position ourselves in the year to come. And now I'm honored to introduce Alwaez Dr. Shiraz Kabani, Head of Community Relations at the Institute of Ismaili Studies. Dr. Kabani joined the Institute of Ismaili Studies in September of 1999. His professional experience includes 11 years as Executive Officer of the Ismaili Tariqa and Religious Education Board for the USA. Over the past 35 years, he has served the Jamaat in Europe, North America, and South Asia in various roles, including as Vice President of the Ismaili Council for the United Kingdom from 2009 to 2015. Dr. Kabani will be sharing with us some reflections on the year behind us and the year ahead. Welcome, Dr. Kabani.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Ya Ali Madad. Let me begin by wishing all viewers a very happy new year. May it bring much joy, barakah, and peace for all of us, as well as much needed relief from the COVID-19 pandemic. What a year it has been. In addition to the pandemic that has wreaked havoc on our lives and across all societies, 2020 also saw the rise of a global movement for racial and social justice, as well as a renewed urgency to address climate change. This year has brought more change in our lives than we could have imagined. The much used phrase, everything changed, is perhaps more true of 2020 than for any other year in our times. Even our vocabulary has changed dramatically. Terms like social distancing, contact tracing, and flattening the curve have entered our lexicon. And let's not forget Zooming and Zoom bombing. You know, today is a special day for all of us. But have you ever wondered why it is so? I mean, this day is by no means distinct from any other day on earth. And yet, billions of people are united in celebration on this day. Perhaps it is our need as humans to organize our lives meaningfully and to rely on markers like the beginning of a year to keep track of the passage of time. It is, after all, these markers that allow us to reflect on the past and imagine the possibilities of the future. So that is what I hope to do in my talk today. More specifically, I will share my perspective on what we have learned as societies and as a Jamaat from the experiences of 2020, and what might we look forward to in the new year. To be sure, there was much taken from us in 2020. More than 1.7 million people lost their lives. More than 100 million additional people were pushed into extreme poverty. Many millions have lost their jobs, their homes, and their businesses. At a personal level, many lost their loved ones, but were not able to grieve. We have not been able to pray or celebrate together for months on end. Long plotted family, educational, and career goals have had to be deferred. The onslaught on our physical and mental health has been unbearable for many. Our very sense of time has been warped by an interminable series of groundhog days of Zoom meetings or other such routines. If nothing comes from all of this loss and suffering, then 2020 will just be remembered as a lost year. But I think as a society, we have learned much from this experience. You know, one of the consequences of the pandemic has been that some of the fractures in our societies, which were somewhat subterranean, became apparent, almost like an X-ray. The racial, economic, and class divides have always been there in our societies, but they have been exacerbated by the pandemic. Look, the coronavirus infects without regard to class, creed, or color, but its impact has not been the same on everyone. For those who have spacious homes, jobs that allow them to work from home, or substantial savings that can sustain them or their businesses during these difficult times, this has just been a great inconvenience. But others who live in cramped quarters or have lost their jobs or businesses and have no savings, this has been a disaster, a time of great turmoil and of futures stolen. While most of us can use the internet to do all of our banking, shopping, and communications, those on the wrong side of the digital divide are completely left out and excluded. So I think what we have learned, or at least should learn from this, is that much more work remains to be done, and done urgently, to repair these fractures. In an article penned shortly before his sad demise in August 2018 by the late Kofi Annan, former UN Secretary General and Nobel laureate, as well as a former member of the board of directors of the Global Center for Pluralism, he wrote, and I quote, "The scale of global economic inequality is staggering and shaming. According to recent research, the number of billionaires rose by the biggest amount ever in 2017, while over half the world's population lives on between $2 and $10 a day. The 2018 World Inequality Report shows the share of wealth held by the top 1% of earners in the US doubled from 10% to 20% between 1980 and 2016, while the bottom 50% fell from 20% to 13% in the same period. Millions of people across the world feel left behind and betrayed as the uneven benefits of globalization divide societies into winners and losers on an unprecedented scale. Income of the middle and working classes in developed countries have stagnated, and their livelihoods are becoming ever more vulnerable to technological change and global competition." Unquote. Recognizing these social inequalities and understanding the perspectives of those who are on different sides of these divides would be an important learning for all of us. So, for instance, many of us might be quite pleased and looking forward to benefiting from one of the vaccines that have been developed to protect us from COVID-19, but we must not forget that the equitable distribution of the vaccine across the world, particularly to poorer countries, remains a major challenge to be addressed. Amongst other lessons we have learned through the challenges in 2020 is the importance of good governance. We have seen the devastating impact of the pandemic due to the poor quality of governance in some of the richest nations in the world. Equally, we have seen how good governance has enabled some societies to minimize the damage from this crisis. It is not an issue of more or less governance, nor even of the type of governance, such as authoritarian or liberal. But what we have learned is that governance, irrespective of whether it is of a country, community, or organization, must entail ethical conduct, transparency, pluralism, effectiveness, sound financial management, and accountability for it to be able to deliver the services that are needed. You know, Maulana Hazrat Imam has been highlighting the importance of this for nearly 3 decades. In an interview published in the Financial Times in August 1991, he is reported as saying, and I quote, "I cannot think of anything more central to development than good government. I don't think you can through external forces impose good government. Good government comes from within, not from outside. And I would tend to say good governance rather than good government." And then the reporter goes on to say that by governance, he means the competence with which both public and private sector entities are run, from higher education to the management of resources to intelligent and honest planning, with clearly stated objectives and answerability for the people who are responsible for running things. Unquote. I think the pandemic has also reminded us of our interdependence and of all the really important work that many people do but are usually undervalued, underpaid, and overworked. The pandemic has taught us to rightly call them key, essential, or frontline workers. They include nurses, doctors, and other medical professionals, emergency responders, care workers, teachers, bus drivers, and other facilitating public transportation, supermarket workers, garbage collectors, postal workers, and other such people who have allowed us to continue some semblance of a normal life while putting themselves at risk to a potentially lethal illness. For too long, I think, we have taken them for granted while celebrating actors, musicians, sports stars, and the like. It is my fervent hope that this pandemic has taught us to value them and the important work that they do. Perhaps another important thing we have realized during the crisis is the potential for technology to facilitate our lives. Since around March last year, we have been forced to spend most of our times indoors and online, making us quite dependent on technological devices for interaction with colleagues and family members beyond our homes. The pandemic has also forced businesses to seek ways to cut costs and adapt their business models in view of changing consumer behavior, particularly as a consequence of lockdowns and stay-at-home orders. All of this has elevated the mediating role of technology in our lives, and its consequences are likely to be long-lasting and transformative. For instance, we have learned that many of us can work from home without compromising efficiency or effectiveness. We can continue our education via learning management systems offered by schools and universities. We can even get health advice from doctors and other professionals via online platforms. All of this is great, but it comes with many risks related to privacy, human relations, physical and psychological health, and so on. We should also not be oblivious to the adverse impact of excessive use of social media that leads to waste of time, creating echo chambers, spreading fake news and deep fake videos, and cyberbullying, etc. Maulana Hazrat Imam referred to some of these challenges in a speech he delivered at the Nation Media Group Printing Press Commissioning Ceremony in Nairobi in March 2016. He said, and I quote, "All over the world, the number of media voices is exploding. Websites, bloggers, and social media voices multiply every day. The result is often a wild mix of messages, good information and bad information, superficial impressions, fleeting images, and a good deal of confusion and conflict. And this is true all over the world. The result, some people say, is that we live in a post-fact society. It's not just that everyone feels entitled to his or her own opinion. That's a good thing. But the problem comes when people feel they are entitled to their own facts. What is true too often can then depend not on what actually happened, but on whose side you are. And so publics all over the world can begin to fragment and societies can drift into deadlock, unquote. The danger of this post-fact society are being witnessed as I speak, particularly with regard to COVID-19 and the vaccines that have been developed. Learning to decipher between good information and bad information will remain important for the foreseeable future. Of course, there are many other lessons one can learn from the experiences of 2020, but I would now like to turn to our Jamat and how we have fared during this global crisis. I think we have been incredibly fortunate to have the blessing of a living Imam whose guidance has shaped our thoughts and our lives in profound ways. It is his prescient teachings that allowed us to adjust to the new realities quickly. One manifestation of it is this very talk that you are watching. Could you have imagined just a year ago that we would have Ismaili TV and all of this online programming for the Jamaat worldwide? Even Maulana Hazar Imam's messages to the Jamaat are reaching us via the .Ismaili website. Used intelligently and cautiously, these channels can serve the goals that Maulana Hazar Imam has to demystify Islam and effectively articulate our Ismaili identity and beliefs to the world at large. Another manifestation of the impact of our beloved Imam's guidance has been the incredible outpouring of support and assistance we have witnessed, not just through the institutional channels, but also by what we like to call silent angels, who quietly go around supporting people who need help. I've seen people delivering groceries to the elderly. I know many who have spent hours making calls to ensure that those who might be lonely or vulnerable are not forgotten. Thousands of Ismailis have volunteered innumerable hours of their time to support people in need in the wider societies among whom we live. In many diverse ways, we have applied the ethics of our faith when it mattered most. The spirit of one united Jamaat with a strong social conscience has been palpable. Perhaps one of the most painful aspects of this pandemic for many has been our inability in many parts of the world to come together for prayers and celebrations in our Jamaat khanas. The very space that we saw as a sanctuary in all difficult times has not been accessible to many of us for a prolonged period. Yet, in most of my conversations with murids across the world, I've heard them articulate the oft-repeated sentiments about the importance of the batin that is represented by the zahir, and that ours is an esoteric tradition, which means that the practice of our faith can continue at our homes, with our families, in the ethical and caring ways in which we live our lives, even in these difficult and challenging circumstances. So I think as a Jamaat, we have come through reasonably well. Yes, there have been tragedies and difficult times, but with the blessings and guidance of our beloved Imam and the Jamaati institutional support, we have been buffered. Inshallah, we will emerge stronger and more resilient from this crisis with a renewed commitment to our faith and our Imam. Nearly a year into this COVID-19 crisis, most of us are fatigued and longing for an end to this nightmare. Fortunately, with the grace of God and the ingenuity of many scientists, we can see light at the end of this long tunnel as vaccines are starting to be delivered across many countries. Inshallah, we will soon be able to return to our Jamaat khanas, meet each other face to face, hug each other, and shake hands. but life will probably never get back to what was normal before the pandemic. And perhaps it shouldn't. The famous Indian author and political activist Arundhati Roy explains this well in her article in the Financial Times. She writes, and I quote, "Nothing could be worse than a return to normality. Historically, pandemics have forced humans to break with the past and imagine their worlds anew. This one is no different. It is a portal, a gateway between one world and the next. We can choose to walk through it, dragging the carcasses of our prejudice and hatred, our avarice, our data banks and dead ideas, our dead rivers and smoky skies behind us. Or we can walk through lightly, with little luggage, ready to imagine another world and ready to fight for it." Unquote. I think she has got it right. We must make wise choices as we move forward. Let the new normal reflect the learning from the crisis of 2020, developing a renewed respect and care for the environment, smart and responsible use of technology, playing our part in supporting good governance at all levels, recognizing and addressing the inequities and injustices in our midst and in society, appreciation of all those who do critical work that we could not do without, and devoting time to what is really important and meaningful in our lives. I hope and pray that the new normal will be more ethically enlightened, leading to a better world for all. Thank you for listening to this talk, and once again, a very happy New Year to you all. Ya Ali Madad.
Thank you, Dr. Kabani, for your thoughtful commentary. And now we have the privilege of hearing from the presidents of the local councils in Canada. Over the past year, each of them has had the difficult and often distressing task of leading the Canadian Jamat through one of the most challenging periods in its history, coordinating support to those in need, overseeing the suspension, opening, and management of Jamaat Khanas, helping the Jamats to stay connected, ensuring Jamati inquiries and concerns are appropriately responded to, liaising with external agencies and government departments for the safety of the Jamaat, and much, much more. As we close out the year, we ask them for their reflections on their experiences and their hopes for the year ahead. Let's hear what they had to say.
Looking back on the past year, I am most grateful for the time I've got to spend with my family, and specifically getting to know old friends again. And I have to say that I'm very grateful for the opportunity to serve the Jamaat through this time and get to know, work with and laugh with some really incredible people in that work.
Of course, the closing of Jamaat Khanas has been the most challenging part of 2020, along with missing all the smiles and hugs often taken for granted. And as the pandemic continued, it has become even more evident the importance of supporting at an individual level the many families that have been impacted by COVID-19, be it due to economic hardship or mental health support, all having to do it virtually.
My hopes and aspirations for 2021 include seeing the Jamaat bounce back from whatever the effects of the global pandemic may have been on any individual or family. Our history has shown the resilience that our Jamaat has, and through the guidance and love of the Imam of the time, our ability to weather any storm that we may be confronted with. So I look forward to seeing the Jamaat bounce back, be even more unified and stronger as we move into the new year.
What has inspired me the most in 2020 is that the Jamaat has been so supportive of each other. Our volunteers inspire me every day. For example, our virtual emergency operations center in Ontario is staffed by hundreds of volunteers. We get a daily dashboard that outlines COVID trends in each public health unit where we have our 27 Jamaat Khanas. It also identifies emerging issues in the Jamaat Khanas or via the access line. We meet every night to review the issues make decisions, and then start implementing them on the ground.
Here in Alberta, we're experiencing a perfect storm of both a prolonged economic downturn and a pandemic. But something which has inspired me most in 2020 is the way that the Jamat has pivoted to focus on building for a post-pandemic world. I'm actually really excited to see the incredible talent that has surfaced to help position the Jamat to thrive in the future.
The most difficult challenge I had to face in 2020 was witnessing Jamati families going through some extraordinary difficulties, especially losing loved ones and struggling with mental and physical health challenges. In a very difficult time when their friends and extended family members were not able to come together physically to support each other.
To relax while working from home this year, I've tried to allocate 3 hours every week to exercise, as it gives me tremendous energy. Often I work out with my wife and my 2 sons in our basement. We lift weights, we do cardio, we encourage each other, and it is our time to catch up.
Something that I won't miss about this past year is being physically apart from the rest of the Jamat. The decision to close Jamat Khanas was extremely difficult. I think that we gained a new appreciation of the Jamat Khana space for prayer, for reflection, for social connection.
The biggest challenge we faced in 2020 actually had nothing to do with the pandemic or the closure of Jamat Khanas in Kingston and Ottawa. Our biggest challenge was the loss of our president, Karim Gwadari, this year. It was difficult, but everybody in the Jamat rose to the challenge and provided leadership to get through this time. And you know, the example that President Gwadari left us of leadership, of caring for the Jamat, of love for the Jamat, of disciplined execution really has stuck with us, and we are grateful for the time we've had with him.
Pour 2021, j'espère de tout cœur un retour progressif à la normale où les gens pourront vaquer à leurs occupations et se réunir à nouveau avec leurs familles et amis sans craindre la COVID-19.
My hope for 2021 is first and foremost for it to be a year of hope. And more specifically, good health. Inshallah, a COVID-19 vaccine for humankind the world over, and more support for mental health. Continued kindness that we've seen in 2020. Enduring love and connection with family, friends, and the community. And finally, I know my sons, Nayaz, Nishad, and Nabil can't wait for the barbershop to open to get that much needed haircut.
What has inspired me the most in 2020 have been our frontline workers and our Ismaili volunteers. Frontline workers who have often worked 12, 14, 16-hour shifts to make sure British Columbians were looked after, and of course our Ismaili volunteers who have served our seniors in delivering meals, groceries, and others who have been at Jamat Khana at 3 in the morning or 6 in the evening to make sure that every member of the Jamat was looked after. They have all been a source of incredible inspiration for me.
And yes, we will eventually, as a Jamat, celebrate Kushali by having biryani and dancing to Ras. On a personal note, I'm looking forward to the opening of the new build Holton Jamat Khana in the West End of Toronto. It's a project that I have been closely involved with for many years.
Something that I'm really looking forward to in 2021 is the construction of the Divan Pavilion at the Aga Khan Garden. It was so special to celebrate the groundbreaking earlier this year. The Divan will be a space for friendship, for intellectual dialogue, and will add to Alberta's unique architectural landscape.
I think what's inspired me the most is watching the best come out in other people. You know, seeing the courage, the resilience, the kindness and empathy that so many people have shown in caring for each other. The other thing that's inspired me, it's very specific. A few weeks ago, we had the IV Volunteer AGM. And the AGM was so much fun. And we had about 60 or 70 people come together to laugh, to sing. And the best thing about it was organized by our young volunteer leaders. And the next day, Mufti Sahib called me and said that he spoke to a member of the Jamaat, an elder member of the Jamaat, and that person said that they really needed that connection. They so much enjoyed seeing everybody's faces and laughing together, and they got uplifted through that experience. So that initiative and that connection really inspired me.
Something I did to relax in 2020 was taking more time to be and to play more often with my two sons, who are now 4 and 7. Amongst other things, we went hiking on new trails for the first time as a family this year, which we thoroughly enjoyed.
What I'm looking forward to most in 2021 is seeing our Jamaat Khanas reopened and back to normal. No restrictions, no limitations. The entire Jamaat having the opportunity to come together in Jamaat Khana as often as they would like. Personally, I'm looking forward to our first chai night, where we can all mingle and be together face to face in person and enjoy together a hot cup of chai.
Thank you for sharing your reflections. And on behalf of the Jamaat, thank you to you and all those who have supported the Jamaat through this crisis with this incredible seva. We end our show tonight with 2 treats. First, many of you have expressed your appreciation and interest into knowing how shows like this one and many others are made. So tonight, we're giving you a behind-the-scenes time-lapse into a recent episode of Friday Night Reflections. And a warning, if you don't like fast-moving scenes, it can be a bit dizzying to watch. Our hats off to all those in 2020 who worked so hard to keep the Jamaat together while we've been physically apart. It has been truly inspirational. And then, you don't want to miss this. We will round out the show with this week's musical feature, Ya Rahman, Ya Rahim, performed by Faisal Amlani in Australia. The lyrics reflect on the tumultuous year we've had and call on the Almighty to ease our collective difficulties and lead us to calmer times. It has been an absolute pleasure to be your host tonight, and I hope you enjoyed the program. Thank you so much for your support over the past year. We wish you all the best for 2021. May it be a year of happiness, of community, of fulfillment, and love. Thank you so much for watching. Ya Ali Madad.
बंदा हूँ तेरा, तू ही है रब मेरा, आका तू ही है सब मेरा। खो जाऊं मैं जो, ढूंढूं मैं तुझको ही, ये साथ तूने तो छोड़ा है कब मेरा। मेरी मुश्किल हल कर दे, इस आग को जल कर दे, मेरी मुश्किल हल कर दे, इस आग को जल कर दे। या रहमान या रहीम, 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 या रहमान या रहीम। इतने मजबूर है कि सबसे दूर है, ऐसी आंधी आई कि थक के चूर है। इतने मजबूर है कि सबसे दूर है, ऐसी आंधी आई कि थक के चूर है। कोई तो इशारा दे, मुझको सहारा दे, जिससे पार उतर जाऊं, ऐसा किनारा दे। तू ही है मालिक, तू ही है खालिक, ओ मेरा अल्लाह। या रहमान या रहीम, 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 या रहमान या रहीम। बंदा हूँ तेरा, तू ही है रब मेरा, आका तू ही है सब मेरा। खो जाऊं मैं जो, ढूंढूं मैं तुझको ही, ये साथ तूने तो छोड़ा है कब मेरा। मेरी मुश्किल हल कर दे, इस आग को जल कर दे। या रहमान